day, grade 11s. Today is our final video on capitalism in the USA, dealing with the New Deal. And it doesn't actually deal with the New Deal. This is just studying tips and tricks. So, what I find is that a lot of learners think studying for a history essay is simply reading over the work over and 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 over until it prints in their head. That works for some people. I call them mega minds. But for everybody else, that doesn't really work because to memorize an entire 3 page essay, it takes a lot out of you. And it's unfortunately not something that everyone can do. Some people can do it, but most people, I think, will need to take a different approach. So, what I'm going to do today is just go over couple of different ways in which you can approach any essay question. All right, I hope you are ready. Let's go. Here we are. All right. So we're going to have a look at tips and tricks for writing an essay. So, firstly, is you need to carefully read the question. What a lot of learners do is that they will go and prepare an essay question at home and then just present that in the exam without actually answering the question posed. So, for example, when I posted the video on a full essay example, I wrote in the description that you cannot use that essay in your exam because the question that's going to be given is going to be different. And if you write that essay, you are not going to be answering the question that your exam is asking. So be careful, be careful, be careful. So when you get into that exam venue, you need to carefully read the question. You need to highlight or underline your key terms, dates, and question focuses. Remember, that question paper that's in front of you, it's yours. Now, I know some teachers are very strict and they don't like learners to highlight and underline and things like that. But for me, I feel that if you are highlighting things on the page, if you are writing things on the page, if you are underlining things on the page, then you are in actual fact working with the actual question and analyzing the question. And that's what we want to see. We don't want to get clean pages back because that means you haven't worked with the information at all. You haven't analyzed anything. You just read it and then immediately jumped into it. So, even if your teacher is kind of against the whole highlighting and underlining and things like that, maybe you can do it in pencil and then erase it. But just a reminder that in the final matric exam, you get to take that question paper home. So don't worry about making any marks on that question paper because that is yours. The answer book, however, is a different story. So don't go highlighting things and underlining things on your answer book. Underlining could still be okay, but don't go highlighting. They don't like to see that in the answer book. Um, Underline and highlight key terms, dates, and question focuses to make sure you're addressing what the question is asking. So don't go into the exam venue with a pre prepared essay. You have to have an idea of the main points that you want to mention, but you also need to make sure that you are actually answering the question that is being asked. Secondly, you can plan your essay with a mind map where you outline the different paragraphs and the information within. This is much easier than trying to memorize an entire essay out of your head. So, I'm going to show you an example of how a mind map can look like. It simplifies the information so much that it's going to be much easier for you to memorize that little mind map and then convert those key points into an essay than to remember everything word for word like a parrot. Okay? And then thirdly, you need to use the PEEL method to compile your paragraphs. This will ensure you get a good presentation mark. So the presentation mark is based on, do you have a really good introduction? Do you have a body with paragraphs? And do your paragraphs follow the PEEL system? And do you have a very good independent conclusion where you basically bring all that evidence together to come to a sort of concluding statement? I don't know where I saw it. I think I saw one of my English colleagues. They were working with Life of Pi, and they had a workbook with them. I think they got it from the department. And in that workbook, they made reference to the PEL system as well. So I see they are applying it in English also. Oopsie. So it just goes to show that even though you're learning this in a history video, you can also apply it to other you can apply this to other subjects as well. So that's cool. Remember to include analysis and interpretation of evidence. So when we look at content, it's very easy to just say, I've got all the content in our essay. But if you really want to push it to that code 7, you need to show some analysis and interpretation. So, what is that? That is not just giving me information on a plate, that is actually arguing the point. So, if you're telling me about relief, recovery, and reform, you can't just tell me, well, this is the relief agencies, this is the recovery agencies, this is the reform agencies, this is what they did, la 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 la. Now, to make it, to push you up to analysis and interpretation, you have a look at the agencies, you have a look at what they did, and then you do something that we call evaluation. So you test that evidence against your introduction. So in the case of the example essay, we spoke about FDR's New Deal for the Forgotten Man. So I'll be mentioning all of the agencies, I'll be mentioning what they did. Now, to get that mark for analysis and interpretation, I must also mention about how these policies actually help the forgotten man. So it's not enough to just say the CCC got people back to work. Now I need to say the CCC got people back to work. This was addressing the millions that were left unemployed by the Great Depression, who felt forgotten by the government. So there I'm tying the CCC to the actual essay question that's showing analysis, that is showing interpretation of the evidence, and that is what pushes you to a code 7. This is an example of a mind map, and you can see how this is much easier to study than to have a whole 3-page essay in front of you. Of course, what I would change if I was you is I would actually write out what agencies I'm talking about there. So CCC and PWA, and I'd probably also include this is what the CCC did, this is what the PWA did. Same with recovery, I'd write out what does AAA, what is TVA, this is what the AAA did, this is what the TVA did. Reform, Emergency Banking Act, SSA, this is what this one did, this is what that one did. And that you can add to your mind map, just short little bullet points. And then you see the successes of the New Deal on the other side. So the relief, recovery, reform, that is going to tell me about the New Deal, and then the successes of the New Deal, the failure of the New Deal. So you can see that it immediately addresses the issue of unemployment. It helps struggling farmers. It stabilizes the economy, gives pension and disability benefits. It boosts morale. The failure did not fully solve the unemployment crisis. World War II is the reason for economic recovery, not the New Deal. Increasing government debt, criticism from the left and the right. So the left was criticizing that it didn't go far enough, and the right was criticizing that it went too far. Basically, Donald Trump is saying, the New Deal's going too far. And Kamala Harris is saying, your New Deal's not going far enough. Just so you can get an idea of what's happening there. All right, so other tips and tricks. This has more to do with the studying aspect of it rather than being in the venue and this is what you do. So this is the studying part. This is what you do before you get to the venue. You need to study past papers, and all the past papers, you can find them online. You can go to the WCED website. You can go to the Northwest Education Department website. You can go to the Eastern Cape Exams website, and you can get loads and loads of past papers. Just download 2 or 3. And I promise you, just working through 3 past papers, you will figure out every single possible way that question can be asked. And that will make you more prepared for whatever your teacher comes with. Because you have hit that from so many different angles that when your teacher comes with something, you'll probably have seen it before in a past paper. Then another way is you can create study groups where you bounce ideas off each other. Sometimes a lot of people are not introverts. They learn best by speaking to other people, having discussions and things like that. So maybe one thing that you can do is you can get together with all of your friends and you can have a debate. Like, was the New Deal successful? And you could say that some of your friends will say it's successful, some of your friends will say it's unsuccessful, and then you guys can discuss that amongst yourselves. You can have the evidence in front of you as you study as well. So it's like you can play like a mock trial. Like FDR's on trial for being unconstitutional, and you can discuss like, are these acts actually unconstitutional? Um, did it help people? Was it worth it for it to be unconstitutional if it meant it helped people and things like that? It's just a more fun way than just reading things out of a book. You can also record yourself reading the essay and play it back to yourself. So that basically means if you have, for example, an app like WhatsApp, and I know that about 17% of my viewers come from WhatsApp. Uh, you can record yourself reading the essay and play it back to yourself. So you go into, I think there's a button you can click where you can message yourself, and then you play the recording button and you read out your whole essay. Or you can say it if you know it out of your head, but that defeats the point, I guess. But you can read out your whole essay, and then what you do is you stop the recording and then you just play that to yourself over and over and over and over. And eventually it will stick because you are hearing your own voice coming back at you all the time. You can create cue cards on the main ideas of the essay. So instead of writing the whole essay out and trying to memorize it like that, take a A4 piece of paper, cut it up into quadrants, and put each paragraph on one quadrant. And then you try and memorize each paragraph one at a time. So you first memorize paragraph one. When you know paragraph one, then you memorize paragraph two. When you know paragraph two, then you go back to paragraph one and you check if you can say paragraph one and paragraph two together without forgetting anything. Once you've got that, then you can go to paragraph three. Once you know paragraph three, then you see if you can say paragraph one, paragraph two, paragraph three all together. And if you forget something, then you go back to it. So that's one way that you can study an essay. And this is so, so important. You need to pace yourself. Don't study everything the night before. You need to think of yourself like a glass, right? You can only pour so much water into that glass. And if that glass is full and you try to pour more water in, the only thing that's going to happen is all the water that's in that glass is going to overflow and nothing is going to stick. Right? So that is why you can't study everything the night before. Some people can, those aliens among us. But the rest of us, if we try to push too much information in our brain, that is when we walk into the exam venue and then we hit the blank because we try to force too much information in all at once. So give yourself about a week, I think. Because if there's about 5, 6 paragraphs, do one paragraph a day. 1 week, you should know your essay. All right. I hope that was helpful to you guys and all the best for the rest of your exams. Remember, you can use these tips and tricks for any essay. That means paper 1 or paper 2. You can even take these tips and tricks with you to grade 12. Here's my sources. I did use a few more sources than this, but it was just like one sentence here, one sentence there. So I figure the Wikipedia article has all the information on. I know a lot of teachers say, oh, don't use Wikipedia. But the thing is, if you go to Wikipedia, you'll see there's like a one, a two, a three, wherever they say something. If you click that button, it takes you to the bottom of the page where they list all their sources. So I know a lot of teachers say, don't use Wikipedia. But I'm like, look, if they can list their sources, why not? Why not, eh? And then you can see where I got some of the slides and stuff like that in the slide player link. All right. The other stuff I obviously got from years and years of teaching experience. The history textbook, which is the one I use, is like a purple book. Was it Focus? I don't know. It's a purple book. That's the one I use, but I didn't really use it to compile this. That this stuff is just coming out of my head. Well, not out of my head, but after years and years and years of teaching history. And yeah, because I did get a question in one of my comments like, where did you get the sources from? And I'm like, well, okay, fine, I'll show you my sources. Not the fact that I've been a history teacher for 10 years. Okay, I can't cite that. I can't say bread is soft. I need to cite Johnson and Johnson who said bread is soft in 2011. But yeah. All the best for the exams. I hope this was helpful to you. Bye bye.